and welcome to this episode of Career Bites 2025, brought to you by the UP School of Economics Student Council. I'm Carlo from Batch 2021, and here with us today is Ma'am Mayette Gayares to share her long professional journey in banking and finance, from graduating all the way from UPSE to now working as BPI's Chief Compliance Officer. So, Miss Mayette, can you please tell us first about your experience during your undergraduate days in UPSE?
Okay, I'm a business economics major at that time. It's BS, Business Economics. I know things have changed today. So our curriculum, there were really more business than econ. Econ were, a lot of them were the outside of the mandatory courses, purely electives. So I graduated in 1981. So my student number is, you just compute, it's way back when. So I'm graduating class of 81. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join any of the UPSE organization at that time. There was one major, biggest, and that's ECOSOC. Now, ETC was just coming in, fairly new. And most of my batchmates were all BA, and Barcada were all BA. So I joined a BA. A BA, please do not condemn me, no, for doing that. BA Association, UP Junior Finance Association, where I was treasurer on my last term as a graduating undergrad. So that's the journey I took in terms of econ and BA. No.
Okay, actually, Jayus here is from GFA. So next question.
Hey, Jayus.
What is your fondest memory as an UPSE student?
Oh my. I love the interaction. You know, before the building was so new, so you will get or see a lot of people that are non-UPSE that are coming in there. So you get a chance to meet them, people from engineering, people from BA, because the building was so nice. You have an air-conditioned library, and the canteen was fantastic, serving good food. I don't know if that's the case still there. So, but it offered a lot of good and memorable interactions. And then there are also mishaps in my term. ECOT, at that time, there was no talkie. It was just ECOT. So I fell off one of the jeeps in front of the UP School of Economics. So I just stood up and, ran to the building, trying to make sure that nobody saw me. But outside of that one, you really, if there's anything I learned in ECOR, and UP in particular, is really the independent thinking. The ability, nobody curtails what you want to say. Of course, it's up to you what to say, of bordering on what should be allowed or in terms of good manners. But the independent thinking, the ability to speak out, and also the courage to sometimes fall, waver, but the ability to get up with no pressure, with no embarrassment, with no prejudice of what happened to you in the past. I learned that. I hope it's still the same in UP today. But to me, more than the academics, it's really character building that's very important. And of course, and first and foremost, which is I practice until today, one is always the thirst for knowledge. UPSE, if there's anything, you only read. You don't read just what is given to you as the readings. You read background materials to help you understand it better. And second, the ability to love doing work. Because at the time, our thesis, there was no computer, there were no laptops. The computer center was doing our statistical results, so we had to walk all the way. So the technology wasn't there. But that gave, I think, everyone a chance to really, really work hard and look at your inner self, the strength that you find in yourself to make sure that you move forward. So outside of academics, I think that's the most important lesson I really learned up until today that I still practice.
Okay, good to hear that UP still hasn't changed all this time. So, so next question, Paul. Did you expect to work in finance and banking while you were studying your bachelor's degree in economics?
Even if before college, I knew I wanted to work for a bank. I just didn't know I didn't know at that time that banking as an industry is so diverse. So I knew I was gonna work there. But after graduation, I listened to the call of my barkada in college to work for an insurance company, totally different from economics. And I was doing a training and manpower development. Total turnaround. So there's a slight detour. But I went to grad school. I went abroad for grad school, and when I came back, I always knew I was going to go back to banking. So I went back after 2 years of getting out of college, completing masters. I came back to work for a bank at that time. It's no longer here. For you, that's the old Far East Bank and Trust Company, which was the first bank I joined. That was merged with BPI today. So and just to correct lang, Carlo, no, when I retired, I'm retired from BPI, but I continued to work for them as a consultant for mergers and acquisitions. But when I retired, when I left BPI, I was Chief Risk Officer for the BPI Group, but I also was, prior to that, the Chief Compliance Officer for the BPI Group. So banking to me became a huge adventure, because I went from many facets of the organization or places in the organization to finally end up where I did when I ended my BPI term as a regular employee in July of 2023. So I'm still there, but I'm from consultancy.
I see. So there's actually a lot of roles in banking and finance.
Oh yes. But there's certain. I love where risk management. Compliance was changing, was fairly difficult, but risk management, I think, covers both your economic side, the things that you learn from macro, from micro, from industry analysis and all that, to the finance side, which teaches you cash flow analysis, credit, and all that. It's a perfect combination for anybody who wants to go in banking. To me, that's the best place you can go if you're an econ, especially if you're BE or a BS econ graduate.
All right. Before we move on to career questions, given all of that, would you say that your years in studying in UPSE prepared you well enough for your career?
Of course, because the discipline. One thing you learn. I know, I don't know, when I was in AS for the first year, oh my, to me it was an adventure. It was not really going to school, no? So I came from a exclusive girls' school, and freedom in UP is really freedom for me. That also made me decide to go to UP other than the other school in Ateneo, along Katipunan. So it was freedom. So I had a good time in the freshman year, but when I got, I was just so lucky. My grades hit the quota mark to join Business Eco. On the second year, it was really hard work. So I had my time during the freshman year. As a sophomore, the hard work started for me. But to me, Econ, I don't know. It's just the analytical mind that you need to have. The depth of understanding. It's not really memory work. It is really understanding the concepts and the theories behind it. But you need to also learn how to apply it in real life. No? And that I was able to do when I left and graduated, when I joined the bank. It will take you, to me, that's the most, if there's anybody who wants to join finance, you have two options: commercial banking or universal banking, as traditional banks have. You can also join investment banking, which is also a combination of risk, credit, as well as economics. And then there's a challenge coming from the fintechs. Now, fintechs is a totally different game altogether. But if you like analytics, thinking out of the box, making your business acumen work, ability to digest and create something innovative, joining a fintech will also be good for you. I also consult for GCash pala. So aside from BPI.
Okay, those are some great answers, and actually a good outlook already of the current banking industry of today, of this age. So let's move on to career basics, Ma'am Mayette.
Sure.
So first question, how would you describe your current role in one sentence as a consultant right now for BPI?
As a consultant, you need to have the stock knowledge. The success of being a CRO, even as a consultant, is really to know how your organization works. And that's consistent across, not only for banking, but if you're in that role, you need to know how your company, your firm works. That operational knowledge, the stock information or stock knowledge you gain through experience will help you a lot fulfilling that role, and even as a consultant. And for consultancy, as an ex-banker, I can work with any bank, private or public, as well as the associations related to banking, and even with some of the regulators, no, that field is open for somebody in this area of expertise.
Okay. So next question, but you may answer from the perspective of when you were a consultant or when you were the
Yes,
risk officer or compliance
sure.
officer. But what does a typical week look like for you, ma'am?
Stressful. The happiness of being a consultant, you get to work still every day. Of course, when you're like, I worked in banking total of 40, total from first join, ano ba yan? Mga 40 years, no, across two different institutions. It's nice to continue on and do a retirement mode as a consultant. Okay. The good thing about being a consultant vis-a-vis a CRO or a compliance officer or any institution where you are still an active employee, the stress level of being within what they call the line management, executive management, is so difficult because it carries a lot of responsibility. It doesn't make you go to bed and have a nice sleep every day. But the stress is something to do when you come back to go to the office in the morning until you leave at night. When I started, I was at the office at 8. I normally would leave at around 8:30 at night. So it's the stress level is different. Consultancy is a totally different field because you don't have the responsibility to stay over. You do it on your own time, and you're not expected to be rated, no, or be appraised in terms of your performance on how well you did your line job. So that's the nice thing about consultancy.
Okay, wow. So given that difficulty of work, actually, we would like to ask, what are some hard and soft skills that you think are necessary or that help you a lot during your work?
Okay, when you say hard skills, no, it's really your knowledge of credit. In my job, credit, I need a knowledge of risk management. Risk management is a totally diverse. I can give you a seminar, one-day seminar on what risk management entails, but very diverse. So you have credit risk, market risk, liquidity risk, and all that. No? There's also the added complication of following regulations and rules. Banking is a heavily regulated industry, and therefore we have a body of rules and laws and regulations we have to follow in our day-to-day operations. So you need to have that. That's hard skill. That really is hard skill. Soft skill, what is important? Again, what I learned from UP, speak your mind. Because your input will always have value. Whether it is something that will be used eventually or will be totally disregarded, it is important to be heard. So speak out. You will lose nothing by speaking out. Second, don't fear hard work or staying late, because there's some things that need to be finished within the day. But there's some things that, especially when you work on projects, that can be a longer term initiative or commitment. But do not be afraid of that one. I guess what I learned from UP really is independence. No? You work, but you also make time for play. Your personal life has to be more enriched, even if you're devoting so much time in working. And what does enrichment does? Our batch of 81 is still a very active organization. We are 81, so we're nearing our 45th year in 2026. But that group, that school, that batch, we're still active in that organization. And that's because you shared a lot of hardships doing work, studying in UP and all the stressful hours, finishing your thesis, trying to get away from professors that are terror and all that. But it melts you, and those experiences will really join you forever as friends and former alumni as well.
Hey, thank you for such a great answer, ma'am. Next question, what are necessary qualifications, like formal qualifications or certifications, do you think are necessary for your work?
Okay, for my work at that level, when I started in banking, I started as at the very entry-level officer. So I was the first, at the time they called it assistant cashier. I was doing work for credit, and relationship management. So you just need to have the tenacity of working hard to get up through the career ladder. What is needed really is competence, skill, and knowledge. UP prepared you for it. It will prepare you for analytical thinking, for sure, because that's what you see. Especially if you're doing credit risk or you're doing credit, the BA courses will help you a lot. If you're doing economic analysis, you're doing cash flow forecasts, a lot of the economic variables that you take into consideration in creating a viable or realistic forecast really takes you to the core of what economics is all about, both on a micro and a macro level. So you should understand how to read the financials of a company, to do it on a micro level and for a business finance level. But from a macro level, you should understand GDP. How does GDP impact your company? How does GDP impact the entity that you're dealing with or you're trying to analyze? What are the economic trends? What is foreign exchange rate? What's the volatility? What it means to be functioning organization during times of economic volatility, which we did way back in 1986, the Asian crisis and all that. So ECO teaches you that. What do you expect? What happens? The cause and effect is very important when you do that kind of work. And then the BA component comes into cash flow analysis. Again, projections coming from an economic base and how you see your companies working, given that those forecasts and those assumptions. How do you see that company working 5 years, 10 years hence? So if you're, if you're looking at working for project finance, those are long-term projects, and so that the economics really matter. If you're wrong on projections using the economics or choosing the variables and how you would project them, that entire project may be doomed to fail. So that's very important. Economics, business, they work together. They should work together.
Okay, thank you for a great list of very precise competencies. So last question under career basics. Why did you choose to work in BPI, and how would you describe its culture compared to other institutions in the same industry?
I started work without LinkedIn, ha? So wala. No LinkedIn, no nothing, no social, no Facebook. So a lot of the work, and you can ask colleagues of my generation or people of my generation, a lot of it also I had to rely on people knowing me and how I worked and how I was in school. And a consistent group that will tell you, you can join this bank because they know they have vacancies. So it was always a indirect referral of sorts. So, but I knew I wanted to work for a bank. So there were only two banks I interviewed with. Far East Bank, which was my bank that I joined, and BPI. BPI, at that time, we were two separate banks. So BPI had a BODP. I missed the deadline I came home kasi mga January, December of 84. I missed the application by 3 months. Wala na, sarado na. I said, I won't wait for that thing to open again in the latter part of 1985. So I joined Far East, and in Far East I was referred to by a senior officer, and I got hired immediately after my interview. So that's where it is. To me, when I started banking, it wasn't so much where it was or what company it was. I just wanted that headway and that footprint to go into banking and move if I need to move to a better institution in the future. So that's also my tip for you guys. You might not get the ideal position you want when you apply for a job, but always choose what industry you want to work for. And then you can start there. Then if you find if it's not meant for you, it's easy to get out, especially nowadays. No? At the time when I came in, it was the assassination of Ninoy Aquino. That was the Philippines was its lowest ebb economically, politically. So it was difficult. But I was lucky to get into an organization that really, a lot of the training I got from UP, I was able to use.
Okay. How would you describe the culture in that organization, playing Far East and maybe BPI?
Okay. Far East is a more collegial bank. They were very informal. I call my boss Josie. I don't call her ma'am, sir. A lot of were an easier, how would you call it? It's more because it's a younger organization at that time, no? Especially in corporate banking relationship management. Most of us were in our mid 20s, early 30s, the oldest, and the next one, the highest, are our bosses are in their mid 40s. So it's pretty young organization. BPI, even at that time, was an older organization. So it's more rigid, it's more structured, unlike Far East. Now, I knew it came to a head when we got bought by BPI, no? But you know what? I think that from the point of view BPI, they needed a new infusion of new blood, new culture that will make a very staid, very rigid organization a little bit more flexible. And I think that's the value that the Far East Bank folks brought into BPI. But so BPI at that when I joined in 2000 and the BPI today is totally different. This is now a more fluid, more innovation focused organization, very human resource oriented. So our human resource department or group really won a lot of awards in terms of taking care of employees, wellness, and staff. It has evolved, and which any organization should. I think after the pandemic, we were able to make sure that the employees' life, welfare, well-being, and their families was always taking center stage, because we knew what it meant to be suffering through a period like that. So that continued on today. So BPI today is also in the forefront of innovation. We do have data analytics. We have a lot of innovation in terms of mobile banking. We are doing a lot of credit. Our portfolio is a bigger portfolio. We also made sure, because we won the Risk Management as an Organization Award for several years, and that continues today, because precisely we knew what to look for, and we knew how to assess them, and we knew how to mitigate them, and therefore we can come out with a portfolio that's well balanced, taking into consideration the requirements of our customers, on both the retail side as well as the corporate side. So it has changed, and I'm glad it has. And most banks are, I think for you guys coming in, if you want to go into banking, you will see the banking that you see today will not be the banking that you will see 3 years, 4 years from now. That's how fast that industry is moving. Unlike before when I joined, it's a very staid, very formal, very rigid type of where most banks are really codified in terms of rules and laws and policies and process. We still have that today, but it's always customer focused now and innovation focused. So if you join it today, you'll have a fantastic time doing it.
Okay, thank you for answering all our questions under career basics, ma'am. Let us move on to questions about professional beginnings. We've mentioned that you graduated from UPSA, you've taken your master's, and you've had a role in Far East and 3 more roles in BPI. Can you walk us through perhaps other roles you've taken in your career in finance, what other jobs you might have not mentioned yet, and any other higher education you haven't mentioned?
Naku, you will not like what I say. I'm a very big, I knew where I wanted to go. I really knew where I wanted to go. So while I knew there were some times during my career in Far East, before BPI, that I applied for and was hired by another institution. I was always prevailed upon to stay, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. It's just really my character. When I develop a lot of loyalty, my bosses in particular, when they tell me, I have this plan for you, maybe you should look at it and decide before you decide to move out. This is make part of your analysis, whether the journey they're presenting to me is part of my long-term plan. So I practically worked, aside from that detour with an insurance company in 1982, I stayed in banking all throughout my life. I just was employed with 2 institutions, Far East and BPI. So I'm not recommending that for everybody. That's a choice I made, because precisely this is where really I wanted to end up and begin in and end up as I move through that career and towards retirement. No? But the only thing I'd like to say to the younger folks, especially the up and coming that want to join banks or any other institution, do not focus on what you see today, because what you see today, especially during these times when technology is getting to have a deeper and a more progressive say on direction of firms and institutions, what you see today is not necessarily what you would see again, as I said earlier, in the next 2 to 3 years. So you should be able to welcome the change. Importante yun, that change is inevitable. And
Okay.
the UPSE experience, because you're trained to do independent thinking, to more analytic and thinking out of the box, being more diligent at work, will help you manage or traverse, when you traverse that road to change from where you started to where you will find yourselves in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
I'm happy because technology, you guys are so adept and very well versed in technology. You'll not have a difficult time transitioning to the changes that you see in the future.
Okay. Thank you for that answer, ma'am. Next question. Why did you choose to work in finance? Are there any interests or background that influenced your decision?
Even when I was in elementary school, ganun pa lang, that young, I knew I wanted to work from a bank. But the total focus was, you know how branches are in the back, diba? There's a teller there, they count money. I love counting money. Whether it was play money or real money. To me, that was banking in a nut. That's what I knew. Lo and behold, it was only a small part of what I saw in Far East. But I knew banking was always a place that I wanted to be in. Also, I had an uncle who was a graduate of UPSE in the late 60s, in the early 60s, who was sent by UPSE to MIT for masters, and then went to Stanford, I think, for masters, and then went to MIT for doctorate. I knew I didn't want to be a professor like him. I knew it. It was something that was siguro not in my blood, even if my mother was a teacher in a public school for 42 years. I knew what it meant to teach, and I don't think it was for me. So I said, if this is, I want to go to graduate school, but maybe the track of what I will take will not necessarily be a master's in economics, which is what I ended up doing. I took a master's that was the MBA in finance and investments, which the economic side of it, the theoretics, the theories of economics had a huge portion of what enabled me to pass a lot of those PA or business courses. So again, it's really what you want. Now, for the younger folks, you have more options. And I could imagine the options, because there are so many, may be difficult for you to make up your mind. But always think of what you really want to do. But when you get there to that industry, don't be tied down. You can move on as because you have so much opportunities nowadays.
Okay, so be flexible. All right, thank you for that answer, ma'am. Next question, the last one for professional beginnings. What do you like the most about being in finance, and what is the hardest thing in finance for you?
Okay, because I've been around in banking. No, I've been to credit. I've been to dealing with customers on the corporate side. So because I had all of it, I enjoyed client contact to begin with. But your career the needs of the organization will dictate where you will go. So from 15 years in credit and customer relations, I went to compliance. That's totally diverse. But again, I always look at challenge as a new learning experience. So I never was afraid to do it. And I knew there were other things that I see myself doing outside of what I was doing 15 years. So when that opportunity came, I took it in, not knowing how difficult it would be. I had some semblance of knowledge of what the job entailed, but it was more difficult than I imagined. And to be fair, I nearly quit 2-3 years into the job. But again, when your bosses talk to you and you see the nuggets of wisdom that you can get and learn from them, you listen. And it's a good thing I did, because all those challenges make you a stronger person, a stronger leader, a better boss for your subordinates, and also maybe even from a point of view of of management, you can share more. Your knowledge becomes more well-rounded and prepares you for something more and better as you move out of that function. Which, when I transitioned from compliance to risk, I didn't have much leeway. The CRO I replaced left in January 1. I was CRO in January 2. So you need to be able to see if this is really where you want to be.
Okay.
Some people will, just be patient. Yun lang ang ano ko lang. And nothing to you guys, but patience is really what it is. It's a virtue. It's not boring, but it's a good virtue to have. But you also need to know when to say, I've had it and it's time to move on. So that one is part of analytical thinking. That's part of independent thinking as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for answering all the questions for professional beginnings, ma'am. Let's finally move on to personal advice. And we've mentioned the kind of character UP builds, someone who speaks their mind, who has strong analysis, critical thinking, leadership. And now you've talked about strength and patience. Is there another quality of a person, do you think, that can thrive in finance?
Be brave. Don't be afraid of challenges. Take that as an opportunity to learn. I've always said this to my former team, my subordinates, my one downs. The day you want to stop learning is the day you quit work. Because every day that you go to work take that opportunity as a learning opportunity, either from a leadership perspective, how to deal with your one downs, how to deal with your bosses. Take a look at this as expanding your knowledge of the field that you're currently in, because anything new, especially in a very fluid industry where there are rules and regulations you need to follow, as I did, everything there's always a challenge when there are new things that you need to make sure that the bank is allowed to do as a licensed business. And also, I guess, take the opportunity to have fun. When I was in Far East, now we have a Friday club. The Friday club is a time to unwind. So at 6:30 at night, everybody shuts off their laptops or desktops, and then it's time to socialize. So we made sure we have time. You need to balance that. Work-life balance is still important. Even if how difficult the job is. So sa UP, di ba? Simple taste, simple life. To me, that was my experience, and I was so happy, just eating fishball right there. Like tusok-tusok near the library in Gonzales Hall. No? If you bring me to UP now, and I used to go, I will go again on Monday, I'll get lost because that's not the UP I remember. It was more spacious. We used to run around the oval. Not many cars. So it was more open. But I think for you guys, enjoy UP. If you haven't graduated, enjoy it for what it is. The openness, the intelligence, and all that stuff, analytics that you can get.
Okay. Don't worry, UP is as beautiful as ever today. Hey.
But too many buildings now, Carlo, ha? Dati madaming green doon eh. Ngayon wala na masyado. But it's good because that's progress. That's progress for the university.
Okay. All right. So next question. So given all those qualities, what do you think is most important for a student, for an undergraduate student like me and Jayus, that prepares them to enter finance? Is it specific internships, organizations, or maybe just very high grades?
Of course, this is my there are some banks, in which my bank in particular, that if you are a Latin graduate, so the CUMs, the Magnas, the SUMAS, they put you into a program, special program outside of the ones that don't have the honors that come in. So take advantage of those institutions that offer that. It doesn't mean though that when you are not part of that group that you cannot enjoy a career in banking. It also, kasi the academics, your grades will open the door for you. But what will continue, what it will take to make that door open wider is really how you perform in the job. So that's attitude. Kasi the intelligence is a given eh. You pass UP, everybody knows you have that intelligence deep down with you. Given yun. But attitude is important. Um, it's always sometimes, and I don't know if it still persists today, that sometimes for schools like ours, for the other two schools or three schools that are harder to get into, people coming in there graduate feel that they're, a mile or ahead above everybody else. That may be true at the onset, but it is not necessarily a guarantee for you to really make well or do well as you start your career. Again, attitude, patience, no fear of hard work, ability to adapt to change. Those are soft skills, but very important. But that soft skill you also learn from UP. Those soft skills you also learn from OPSEN. So you harness that. Don't ever forget it. And I'm pretty sure I work with a lot of UP alumni in BPI. A lot of them, most of them are both in the field of law, compliance, risk management, credit for relationship management. A lot of us are UP alumni from BPI. So you will see a diverse suite of personalities. There are people who are more easygoing. There are people who are more like me. No, at that time I was more strict because of the function. But I see a common thread. The common thread is what we learned in UP. So you don't ever forget that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Those are some good advice that I'm sure the entire audience would take to heart. Okay, let us move on to our last 5 questions, actually, which are industry specifics. So let's begin. Number 1, what's some common misconception about finance and banking?
That it's boring. It's not. It's challenging. It takes a lot of mental gymnastics to be able to do well in that job. It's also a field where you need to learn new things every day, as I say. So don't be afraid of learning new things. That you should also be, because of those new things, it's necessary that you also adapt to a lot of changes. Now more so now than my time, because a lot, as I said, technology is driving it. The change in the regulation is driving it. The change in the geopolitical environment that we find ourselves in is changing it. The global economy is changing it. So what banking, unlike before, that banking was very kasi very consistent. Not anymore today. So it's also your appreciation to reading outside of work will help you a great deal, because you will see from a global perspective what is happening outside and how that would impact to you. The dearth of learning materials, the dearth of readings for everybody today is so enviable. At that time, my only choice was to go to the UP library and stay until it closes, no? Or go to the main lab to Xerox books, but not anymore. Today, everything, the world is your oyster, guys. So it's up to you what you want to learn, because access to information is so wide and diverse for you.
Okay, thank you for that answer, ma'am. For our next question, how important do you think are math skills in the finance and banking industry?
Very important. Math. Okay, I don't mean you need to be a BS math graduate, because in banking, especially when you're looking at the field of risk, of credit, we do a lot of models. Now, models are the output of 3 disciplines: math, economics, and data analytics. So if you have exposure on both, and if you're good in math, you already have the upper hand. All right. May tawag kami dun sa tao na merong phobia sa math. BS math. Bobo sa math. Pero, okay, magaling mag-analytical thinking. So when you do, so it's a combination. You cannot have one and not have the 2 others to do well. So, but having a mathematics background makes it easier for you to make a lot of small programs that will enable you to do your work faster. Mastering Excel to generate macros, to do little program, to make sure that your analytical and your forecast methodologies are sound. Model development is also math-based. So you will learn that, but if you're innately good in math, there's a good, it's a good advantage for you to have. But don't be afraid, because models are models. So that's a part of our day-to-day for risk management. So we work with a lot of them. Like my time, we had 250 models in the bank that we manage on a day-to-day basis. So you need to understand math. You don't have to be the ones doing it or coding it, but you need to understand what it means.
Okay, excellent. Luckily, I think Upsa naman is preparing as well for that.
Of course. One of my time, naku, pinaka-dreadful subjects ko talaga yung 131, economic statistics. 106, meron pa bang 106?
Yes.
Econ 106.
Timeless.
Math 100 in AS, diba? So those were my kasi I'm phobia in math, but thank you God, I passed it naman and not get dropped off from the program. So it's a challenge, but again, nothing can beat hard work, learning, studying well. Yeah.
All right. So next question. You mentioned that your role is because the bank is what the bank needed during your time. Are there other factors that influence your decision to go to your current role or your roles as for the risk officer, compliance officer, and now as a consultant? Are there other factors?
Wait. Outside of the pay. Okay. All right. Ganito lang. Okay, of course, you guys put value naman to your skill. When you go out there, try to negotiate. I'm not saying you make the money that you make as part of the equation, but to me, I think it's because I found myself in a field where there's constant flow of new information. There's a challenge of innovation, and that to me was very important. Para hindi maging boring yung life, no? So. But there's some people, and it's not only banking, but some people like routine. There's some people who like routine, doing the same things day to day. If that's what you like, banking operations, the operational side of banking is the best fit. But if you like theoretical, analytical thinking, if you like tweaking models, if you like creating forecasts, if you like deciphering what monetary policy of the BSP will hit your treasury book, if you want to know what the economics of an industry is, for example, for automotive with the inflow of hybrid. So you need to be able to do that. That is the job for somebody to go into credit, risk management. Compliance is a different animal altogether because it's really knowledge of rules and knowledge of how your bank operates. So it's a different discipline altogether. Some people get afraid of that, but to me, I really thrived on it because part is knowing I like learning new things, and part of me as well is knowing why is things the way they are. Why are things the way they are? Ito pala. It's because there are rules and regulations that I have to follow. Therefore, this is the way it was done. So it also makes you think, and then you also, I think part of a good compliance officer, good risk management officer is also to find out how you can work with those regulations and create value. You're not necessarily there to follow it blindly, but make sure you understand it enough that you can tweak it and move it for the benefit of the institution you work for. That's the main thing really I would advise people going to finance. There are rules, of course. There are rules that are basics that you can follow, but there are also imaginative ways of working with it, no, not against it, but with it, and making sure that your bank really thrives in that area of innovation as well as governance and all that.
Okay, thank you for those answers. Those answers really clarified how one's character would tend to choose those roles depending on how they want their day would go. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Let's move on to our last two questions. So
sure.
Are there any certifications important in the finance industry? As we know, there's the CFA, the CFS, and any higher education that are important now. Like perhaps there is a saturation of MBA. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. CFA will help you a lot, especially in the field of risk management. Being a lawyer will help you a lot in the field of compliance because it's an understanding of rules and regulations. Understanding of credit will make you good in respect of corporate banking, relationship management, where you do a lot of lending, a lot of financial analysis because you want to lend, ability to spot trouble areas or trouble numbers, or troubled entities because they were not performing well. Now, there's a new avenue that is called data science. Um, Data science is very important because if you are a customer based or customer um, loving bank, maybe the term is not, when you make the customer the forefront of your focus, you need data analytics. Now, data analytics is really spot the ability to spot trends, but making sure you also have a bed of technology that allows you to do that. So when I was as part of my job as CRO, we created a data science firm at the time in 2014, 2015, no, 2008. I started with absent compliance. So you build a base of data analytics. Now you have AI, you have ML to make sure that you can learn how to spot trends, insights. Customer insighting today drives the business of growth, not only for a bank, but for any institution. So you need to know what drives your customers' behavior. So to me, that's a very exciting field. I left it. I started that when I was in compliance. I left it when I was as head of risk. But that's a very exciting field to get into. So you choose an institution that also values that. So that has invested in technology to support data analytics and data science, and making sure that you don't have a boring, because data science for data science sake it doesn't work. It needs to be useful for you to engage your customers better, for you to understand risk better. And there's this certain animal called money laundering, anti-money laundering, which most financial institutions are exposed to. Data analytics also provide a core to spot suspicious transactions, to spot irregular transactions. So all of that, all three, the core of that is really data science. So if you have the mathematical acumen, if you like to work with models, if you like to think your way with coding, that would be a good space for you to enter in. Most banks have invested a lot. I think more banks than any other institution or in any other industry.
Okay. Great for the student body, actually. There's a good mix of people who want to take law and actually data scientists, especially with new econometric subjects. Okay, so one last question in career specifics, ma'am. Since you've worked the longest as the chief compliance officer and you've talked about law, how important would it be to be a lawyer, to be a practicing lawyer, or any law subjects and readings would it be to take on your role? If someone wants to be like you and have a role that you've done in BPI,
okay,
how would they do
see,
it?
let me split it into two, and then just flag me if I'm listening. So let's start as a compliance officer. Most banks today like hiring lawyers for that purpose. Now, my argument with just hiring because you want a lawyer is that part of compliance is how you execute, how you implement those rules and regulations. I'm not saying lawyers may not have that ability or that knowledge, but you need to have both. So that's why when we hire lawyers for the compliance position, we train them in banking. What is banking basics? What is banking operations? Because it will not, compliance just for knowing the rules and regulations will not really work. It will not work for your institution. You need to know how your bank functions and how quick and fast you can adapt should there be a change in regulation. So that's for the compliance side. It will help, but it's not necessarily the only thing that you need to have. And my other job as CRO, you need to be able to understand the basics of risk. There are three pillars in risk. There's credit risk, market risk, operational risk. Nanganak na yan, ano? Nowadays, there are several. There's reputational risk, info security risk, data privacy risk, all that. So, in risk management, you are held by two basic tenets. One is the understanding of risk governance. What rules and regulations run risk management? What is required for you to govern your risk? And governance not only includes providing a body of process and policies, but also provide measures for risk mitigation. And also the governance by which how you change and involve in that function. Now, also for that instance, math, as I said, will be of help. Being a CFA, if you graduate from all those modules, I know there are 2 or 3 now, you are most valuable for working with treasury, for banks, and market risk. because that's heavily into a CFA. That's what when you go to the CFA portfolio or syllabus, a lot of it is market risk and basically math based. So there are very specific rules. Now, operational risk is also an issue of basic banking and technology, kasi that's where technology and operations in a bank meld together. It is operational risk. A lot of the things that you hear today, cybersecurity, fraud management, a lot of that are emanating for both banks, fintechs, banks of any size, commercial, thrift, rural, unibank, fintechs. You need to be able to understand the basics of that technology. So you don't need to be an BS IT or business engineering major in computer science. It need not be that, but you need to understand it. A lot of the people that don't like that work, I discovered, kasi they're afraid of learning what technology means. But technology is just really understanding. We're not asking, banks will not ask you to code. That's the part of the ISG, or what we call the information security group, that does a lot of the coding and software development. But in my line of work, in risk management, you need to have a basic understanding of the technology to stretch your bank. It's nice, one of these days, if there is time for everybody, I'm willing to give you guys what risk management is all about. That's common across industries, and it's just so happens that banking is well immersed, and more is required for us to focus in that direction and that field.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Mayette. Actually, that
Sure.
actually ends our interview. I'm actually excited to share this soon with the students because you have provided so many insights. This is better than any talk that I have attended on other events. This is a more personal and refined answers for the industry of
Yep.
finance.
When you go, you're not sure graduating, not yet, Carlo, no? Or do you,
I will.
not yet?
I'll graduate next year, 2026.
Okay. So, when you magma-market ako, I'll take me time. When you graduate, please join UPSEA. That's the UP School of Economics Alumni Association, because you will find you will see why ECO is such a good base, because you will see a lot of people who are involved in so many industries there. There's nothing specific. And when you do that, you also get the connections. And we're just for anybody who's in the graduating class, we're doing a career fair. That was the first time ever that the Alumni Association is sponsoring it, and we're trying to get in firms that are non-government to the extent that we can. But we also included some government institutions who wanted to mix with and find out more about our students and the graduating class, as well as we opened it also up for juniors for opportunities for internship. So we will, I think when that's done by next week, we will try a look at how well we did and what we can share to the student body, not only to the graduating class of this year.
Okay, thank you. Once again, thank you so much, Ma'am Mayette, for giving
Sure.
your time and insights.
No
And
problem. Happy
sure
to do it, Carlo.
I'm sure after watching this interview, our students will have a better idea of whether finance and banking will be a good fit for them.
Sabi niya, oh my God, hirap nun, wag lang yan. De, joke. It's okay. Ay, nako, please. It's the enjoyment. The enjoyment level. Ako, ano bang tawag nun? The non-monetary benefit I derive from it. The satisfaction of doing a
Mhm.
job well done. That really, for me, I found in banking.
Mhm.
But if as I said, follow your heart where you want to go.
I can feel that character trait from all your answers, ma'am. So, so thank you. I will be ending the recording now.
Sure.
We plan to publish the interview soon without it coinciding with the UPSA job fair. And at that time, we'll send you an email and link you to to the interview published.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope if I say something irreverent, edit it. You'll have my blessing. So far, I don't think I did.
I think everything here is worth having. So thank you again,
Okay.
Ma'am Mayette, for your time.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much.